Mika, thanks so much for coming on. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak with your audience about what's going on in my race and what's going on in general here in the state of Florida, because we are definitely in a crisis.
Right. So, Tamika, before we get into the state in general, I do want to get into your race. You did run in 2018 for Senate, but let's get into the thick of things right here. What made you want to run for District 43?
I decided to run for District 43 primarily because I live here. I've lived in this district for a little over 6 years. And being in the district, I've seen it change. This district is primarily just Kissimmee. It does not extend to any other county outside of Osceola. And so with that being said, I've just, living here with my family, we've just watched this district and the county in general change. And I felt like, with that open seat being right here in my backyard, it was something that I needed to do, being that I'm so active already in the community. Why not? Why not? So my race for Senate was ended early due to my brother's passing. I actually had 2 brothers to pass during my candidacy, but the last year, I'll say this, I entered the race January of 2017, and I lost my first brother March 18th of 2017. And then March 15th of 2018, I lost my second brother due to a healthcare crisis. And if anybody knows anything about me, they know that healthcare is my #1 platform issue. So it made it a little bit difficult for me to continue to talk about healthcare for a minute, being that I was still very, very emotional over his passing. So my candidacy at that time, I needed to take a time out and a back seat to it. So I withdrew prior to qualifying after his passing. And my intention was or what I thought I was going to do was going to take a breather and away from politics for a little bit, is what I had planned to do. But, duty calls.
And how are you going to motivate Puerto Ricans, people of color, young people to come out and vote in your race, coming up in November?
Well, first of all, great question. My county is primarily a blue county. Okay, right. Let's start there. So we don't have a lot of really hard competition when it comes to other political parties running in this area, in this county as a whole. So my race in particular, if we zone in on my race has no other parties running in it. So we're just completely Dems, everybody that's in my race. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it makes it a little bit more difficult when you look at a standpoint like that, because now you have to differentiate yourself from people who are supposed to be fighting for the same thing primarily, because you're all Democrats. At least that's what people think. Okay. So the goal is that we have to show a difference in where we're not like the other candidates. And going back to Gillum's race, for example, I think Gillum was, I've met him, spoke with him. We actually ran our campaigns and met a lot with the same people, a lot of the same time. So our campaigns were kind of growing in the same direction, if you will. So we spent a lot of time together on the campaign trail, just being that, either he was coming and I was going, or vice versa, at a lot of the events. But I think Gillum was able to motivate voters because, for one, people didn't see him as being the traditional candidate, that older candidate that only really appealed to the older voters. They saw him as younger, energetic, and he was able to pull those millennials in, which is primarily how they see me. So with that being said, when we were both running, you know, that's why we were running in the same circles, because they kind of put us together as being that we weren't traditional candidates and looked at as traditional candidates in the political arena. Usually, you know, there are older people that run for these positions, and
Right.
they're not as appealing to the millennials. Their discussions are not as appealing to the millennials. They miss that mark, but they're able to be elected because they appeal to the older generation, which are dedicated voters. So they are able to win due to that. But when it comes to my election right now, we know that we stand out first because I was the first woman to enter this race. There has never been a woman nor an African American to occupy this seat ever.
Right.
Okay, I happen to be the only African American in this race. Period. So we know that we are different in that. And so if you look beyond just the fact that I'm a woman and I am of African American descent, if you look beyond that and say, okay, what else does Tamika have to offer? Tamika is active here in this county. So I am the founding president currently of the Osceola County Democratic Black Caucus. I am the founding vice president of the Osceola County Veterans Caucus. I also sit on the DEC, where I'm on the steering committee there and a precinct captain there. And then I have my other things that I do aside from politics, which I'm a teacher here in this county. I teach high school here. Then I have two businesses, one of which is mediation that I zone specifically in to people in crisis, families in financial crisis, which, hello, we're in one right now. But prior to COVID, that was my intention, was to help families overcome that financial hump that they were faced with, whether it be because they ran into an emergency where they were in the hospital, or a child was ill, or death in the family, or whatever it was that caused them to be in financial crisis. I mediated for them to help them overcome that, so that they didn't, lose their house or lose electricity or what have you. And then my second thing that I did was I have a nonprofit. My nonprofit was started right after my run for U.S. Senate. My nonprofit was, which is named after my brother, who I lost to a healthcare issue, was created specifically to continue to advocate for the issues that I was advocating for while I was running for Senate. I had so many followers and supporters during my run for Senate, and so many people were really upset when I withdrew, a lot of which didn't know that the reason why I was withdrawing was due to the loss of my brother. They didn't know. They thought that I was just giving into the pressure coming from the establishment, but it wasn't that. And especially once the word got out why I was actually withdrawing, it really solidified a lot of support and people that really wanted me to run again.
What does that say about the DeSantis administration opening up schools way before August and it basically seems to me that they really don't give a damn about the kids, the teachers, the cafeteria workers, the people, anybody that works in the school, the clerical workers. So what do you think about that?
I think that it shows that we have a lack of leadership. I think that has been an issue for quite some time. And now it is really being brought to the forefront how much of a lack of leadership we actually have because we're in the middle of a pandemic. And so now all the spotlights are on these individuals who we thought were, you know, leaders in some capacity, and now they're showing their true colors, and we're seeing that firsthand. And it's sad that in seeing this, we're also experiencing our children being put at risk, our staff, our teachers being put at risk for this. I noticed here right before we went live that Broward County basically stated that they would not be opening their schools, according to the their executive order, that they wouldn't do it. And I imagine that there's going to be a lot more of other jurisdictions that's going to follow in Broward's footsteps, because at the end of the day, nobody wants to put people at risk on purpose. Now, you know, when it comes to adults, people kind of, you know, feel that adults are responsible and, you know, you're going to do what you're going to do. But when it comes to children, they don't make their own decisions. And people don't want to carry that burden of feeling like they have intentionally put their child at risk for something that could potentially kill them. You know, and so when it comes to my county, we were basically given three options. Okay, as parents, we're given three options. Mm-hmm. The first option is to send your child back to school, regular classes, just like any other day. Okay. Mm-hmm. Second option is to do what they call digital learning, which is similar to what they did at the end of last school year, where the students had interaction with the teachers via online, and they were actually taught that way, given their assignments that way, and it would be a little more structured than it was at the end of the school year, but that's an option. The third option is completely virtual schooling, which has to go through Florida virtual schools. So those were the three options that parents had here in the county to you know, decide on what they want to do with their children coming into the new school year. As a teacher, we were given two options. Okay. Our first option was to come back into a regular classroom. Okay. Every day, regular classroom, regular hours. Secondly, our second option was to choose to do the digital learning. Now, I know the average person would say, oh, that's simple. Just choose to do digital. Well, for my school in particular, my school said, well, even in digital learning, you have to come to the school to do it. So you're going to basically be in your classroom online, like I'm online with you right now, and instructing my students. So my point is that with the schools opening, okay, so this was clearly decided prior to them making the executive order. It was already decided, at least for my county, that schools were going to open here. Mm-hmm. And these were the options that we were given. Now, in my opinion, they disregarded the fact that you're basically putting a teacher at risk if you're asking them to come to school at all, period. If they say that, look, I don't want to take on a full classroom because maybe I have elderly parents that I take care of, or maybe I have a child that's at risk and I don't want to take a chance.
What if you have a medical condition? What if you have asthma or something?
Well, that was my point. It's kind of that thing where teachers don't have a choice. Either you're going to come to work or you're not going to have a job.
That's terrible.
Bottom line for the teachers, because the only two options you have is to have a regular classroom or to do digital learning. But either way, you're still entering the school. Secondly, mind you, even if you're choosing to do digital learning and you say, okay, well, I'll be in my classroom all day by myself, and I'll be on the computer with my students, you still have to come into the class. You have to make it to your classroom, which means that you're going to have other students there at the school, because those students are attending regular classes, so you're still there among other students, and you're among other staff members as well. So it doesn't really decrease the chances of the impact of COVID-19, because all it takes is one. And if you look at what the CDC says, there are people that are completely asymptomatic. So if they're asymptomatic, even with the school saying, hey, we're going to check temperatures every day and we're going to give the students, each student 5 masks to have and make sure that they keep their mask on, even if you look at it in that standpoint, you're considering these students coming that very well may be asymptomatic, just carriers of COVID. And it only takes one to come into a classroom to affect another student. And there you have it. Now it's all over the school. So I think that, you know, the decisions that are being made right now just are they're just showing us the lack of leadership that we have on issues that impact our communities. My county is primarily Hispanic.
Yeah.
My county is over 60% Hispanic. Another 15% of them are African American. So when you look at those numbers, we're a minority county, and decisions are not being made in the best interest when you know that minorities
Yeah.
are highly
Risk.
impacted by COVID-19.
Have you made a decision right now of what you're going to be doing for the next year yet, or no?
No, actually, Rob, I haven't. I'm still sitting on the fence. I know that my son, who is going to be in high school this year, has asthma.
Yeah.
And so I cannot allow him to go back. So he will likely do the digital option for this county. As far as myself, I haven't decided because I have elderly parents, both of which are disabled, and that I take care of, one of which that lives with me, with my son who has asthma. So I, being put in that situation, when I come home, I'm putting both of them at risk rather than just it being about myself. So, it's a hard decision to make, and I'm hoping that with our cases being so high, and they're continuously going up every day, I believe we had over 6,000 today. So with them continuously going up like this, I'm hoping that they will reconsider. I do know, as a member of the teachers union here in the county, that teachers are very upset. And I've heard a lot of chatter about, striking. I've heard a lot of chatter about teachers saying that, they're getting attorneys. It's a lot of things going on right now that we're moving in a bad direction. And I think that our first and foremost concern is our children and youth. And we should be focused on ensuring that we're able to provide them with the best education possible throughout this pandemic. And we can't do that because we're distracted with being ill ourselves, becoming ill. And we can't provide education to them if we're sick. So I don't know, but I haven't made a decision. It is a very difficult decision to make coming up, and I just hope that we will get some leaders that will step forward and express this, because I am not the only teacher that is in a position like this, that takes care of their parents or has ill children or maybe ill themselves. I'm not the only teacher in this position. I'm one of many. Right. And so we need to have some true leadership that's going to step up and say these things. And in the meantime, we have an election coming up, and people cannot focus. We're distracted by COVID. We're distracted by the unemployment, employment to those that have positions, supposedly, and I'm talking about teachers now, that are supposed to have positions coming up and going back to work in the next month. And those that are completely unemployed right now, we're completely in crisis, and we're in turmoil with each other because we have a lack of leadership, and it's really sad.
What have you heard from constituents, from people that are in your district, say about BEO in general? And second part, as we end this interview, what would you do as a member of the Florida House when you get into office to say we need to change the system, because God forbid this ever happens again, or who knows how long this is going to go on for in general. This needs to be fixed because people do not have money. People are going homeless. People are on bread lines all over the state, and it's really insanity. So what would you do to fix DEO?
Wow, great question. There's a lot of things that's wrong with the system that we have. First, we have to decrease all of the interaction that we're requiring of those individuals that are applying for unemployment. Those efforts were set up to discourage people from applying, and
Right.
those that are applying that don't continue to do what they're supposed to do, then they no longer receive unemployment. So they didn't have the best intentions in mind when they created the system initially. Okay.
$75 million for the system, and it doesn't work.
Exactly. So we have to keep those things in mind when we think about how it is implemented. Some of these things are out of my wholehearted control, but what I would suggest is that we remove a lot of the stipulations that we have in place for those individuals that are coming and they are in need of their unemployment. If some of those if some of those stipulations were removed, then there wouldn't be as much of a weight as it is initially when you apply. It wouldn't be that. But you have all of these stipulations of having to, apply and go through your weekly, job search and all of these extra things that you have to go through in order to receive this small amount of money, because that's what it is. It's very little. Now, with our system that we currently have, we need something better. At the end of the day, we need something that truly works for the constituents here. There is no excuse for people that have applied for unemployment in March and to still have not received any type of compensation at all, period, nothing. There is no excuse for that, and we as leaders, we have to ensure that something is different. And I would love to sit down with leadership to address how we can make these changes so that we can ensure that this is something that it does not continue on. And I think that, the one thing that I can say about COVID that's a good thing, is that COVID has brought a lot of issues to light that people have been saying for a long time, but nobody really gave it any attention. People have always talked about all of the hoops that you have to jump through just to get your unemployment. People never paid attention to it. They just swept it under the rug. Well, now that you have all of these millions of people that need it and can't and aren't getting it, now it's an issue. You see it. You see it firsthand. And like you said before, it's not about party politics. This is across the board. This is an unemployment issue that is across the board, regardless of what party affiliation, regardless of your race or ethnicity. This is across the board of a problem here in this state, and we have to address it. So I would be willing to sit down with leadership to see exactly what is in our reach to change this unemployment system to where it's more user-friendly, and that we can ensure that we are providing that assistance to those that are applying for it in a sufficient amount of time, because months of waiting is just ridiculous. And I'm hearing from constituents who are calling the line to try to get someone online, 7:30 in the morning, they're on hold already
know.
with 7:30 in the morning. I'm hearing people say that, you know, they're supposed to receive a call back. They never receive a call back. I'm hearing people say that, you know, they're told that there's nothing wrong, that they're just, you know, they're just going to have to wait. And they've already been waiting since March. How much longer do they have to wait? You know,
Right.
It's just, you know, it's not the workers there, unfortunately, it's the higher ups. And we have to do our due diligence in making sure that we have better leadership. And so I'm calling on everybody to start, you know, right now, another thing that COVID did was made us more tech savvy. It really made us more tech savvy. So for people that are home and you're frustrated, I'm calling on everybody, get on your computers and start researching these candidates, and make sure that when you vote come August 18th, you put in that vote. Make sure that you're voting for people that are truly representing you. These are not issues that we can continue to play with moving forward. We see that people's lives are in jeopardy here, and particularly our children. So if you don't care about the adults who are at jeopardy and the unemployment rate and the things that's going on with our economy and those things, at least care enough to care about our children and youth who are now being put in harm's way because we have people that don't want to respect what our CDC guidelines are and the safety for them. At least think about that and research these candidates and make sure you choose wisely, because that is a big part of our problem right now.
People need to just put on the damn mask. But with
and wear your mask.
With that, as we end the interview, and Tamika Lyles, she's running for Florida House in District 43. That's the Kissimmee area. Definitely look her up. It's August 18th, the Democratic primary. If you're in this area, definitely vote for her. Tamika, first, thanks so much for your time, but can you also tell the voters where they can find more about you as we end the interview?
Absolutely. You can find more information about me on my website, which is www.lyles, that's LYLES 4 FOR HD43, Lyles4HD43.com. You go on there, you can contribute, you can volunteer for the campaign as well, and you can find a full bio about me and what I've been up to over the years and how I've been a huge advocate and community leader for quite some time. So I encourage you to do your research. You can always look me up also on social media, Tamika Lyles on Facebook, Instagram, at Lyles for Senate on Twitter, because we decided to keep that, leave it the way it was. Who knows what's in the future.
Tamika Lyles, thanks so much. Definitely look her up. August 18th in Florida. If you're in House District 43, definitely check her out. We need more progressives definitely in the state of Florida. It's right now the whole state is backwards. We need to flip this state up for sure. So Tamika, thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.